Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexandria, and if you're new here, I make videos about personal development, solo female travel, and most recently, van life. Now, if you saw my last video, you saw how excited I was to have recently purchased my brand new Ford Transit. She's a 148 high roof, and I cannot wait to start building her out. But unfortunately, not even a week in, I'm already running into a couple of snags that I just really didn't anticipate. After a few weeks of mid-70-degree weather, sunshine, and really just beautiful clear skies, California has finally received its share of the polar vortex. And while I'm not afraid of a little bit of water, this wet weather is going to make a couple of things really tricky. Earlier this week, I purchased the first few things for the van build. So I got a max air fan, I got solar panels for the top of the van, of course, and insulation for my walls and floor. And the first and most obvious issue with this is that cutting a hole in my ceiling when it is dumping rain outside is not a good idea. Honestly, even if it stops raining, if there's still a ton of moisture in the air, I'm a little bit hesitant to try to cut into my roof and to seal all of the exposed metal. If it is too wet outside and it doesn't dry, I'm gonna have problems potentially well into my van build. Originally, I wanted to start the build this weekend. I just bought the van on Tuesday, and so it is a pretty quick turnaround, and maybe I had too high of hopes because it's looking like I might need to postpone my build slightly. At this point, I'm honestly happy that I was even able to order those parts because it seems like everybody and their brother right now is out there building a van, and the market shows. It's been really difficult to find items that are in stock to make sure that I can get things before like March or April. And I will admit, earlier this week when I saw how backordered some things were and I saw the weather take a turn, I really started to question whether or not I just chose the wrong time to pursue van life. But after I got out of my head and refocused, realized that, I want to put the time and the money and the effort into this build, I need to be open-minded and I need to be patient and wait for the right things to come along. And so now, although I wanted to start, the hard, dirty work of building out my van this week, I'm going to spend a little bit more time in the planning phase. In my last video, I did mention that I had a couple of non-negotiables, things that I am not willing to sacrifice when moving into a van. First, I'm going to have a full wet bath. I'm going to have a shower and a toilet probably in my shower that'll be removable because I get dirty a lot, I'll be honest. My favorite hobbies are mountain biking and running and surfing and snowboarding and skiing, and with those sports comes a lot of dirt and mud and sweat. And so while I probably could use an outdoor shower, I really want to be able to use my van no matter where I am. And as a solo female, I really don't feel comfortable just pulling up to a parking lot and getting naked in the back of my van and showering outside between my doors. And if it's nighttime especially, or if I'm in the snow, it's gonna suck to have to take off all of my clothes and get soaking wet outside. I would much prefer to use some of the space in the van, a sacrifice, if you will, to some people, for a shower. And the second thing, which I mentioned earlier on in this video, is a garage. I am going to have a fixed platform bed. I know it's really popular, especially in these shorter wheelbase models, to have the two seats with the table in the back, like a kitchen dinette setup, which I would love to do, have a more open concept, have more space to work and eat, and maybe even have a couple of people over. But with the amount of gear that I have and wanting to stay as stealth and inconspicuous as possible, mounting a Thule cargo box on the top of my car or having, two bikes on the back exposed and shown to everybody is not only going to make it really obvious that someone is living in the van, but it is also going to potentially expose me to issues like theft, people trying to rob me, or thinking, oh, she has bikes and skis and snowboard on her car, I wonder what she has in the van, and trying to break in. And so for safety reasons and also just for stealth reasons, I'm going to try and fit all of my gear that I can inside my car. I plan to have space for two bikes, and it'll fit either a road bike and a mountain bike, which I currently have, or if I wanted to go on a trip with a friend or my partner, I could fit two mountain bikes back there as well. Having those large non-negotiables though and a small wheelbase is really going to limit the rest of my space, and so I have to be super intentional about what I actually need and what I want to have in my van. So there are a couple of things that I already know I'm just not going to have room for, and then I need to let go of. And the first thing is an oven. I know some of you are probably thinking, people have ovens in their van? How do you fit that? It's such a small space. But believe it or not, a lot of people do, and I understand why. It would be wonderful to be able to make a pizza or bake cookies in the van or on the road. But again, for my life, it is just not a priority. Even though I love to cook, I know most of my meals can be made just on like a little camp stove or a burner setup, and so I'm gonna be going that route as opposed to a full oven setup. And the second thing that I am prepared to sacrifice is a large bed. Now, I am a fairly small person. I'm about 5'5", 5'6" on a good day, which means that thankfully I can sleep widthwise in a transit. However, I do have some friends, my brother, my parents, if anybody else ever wanted to use the van or my partner wanted to join me on a trip, they are all over like 5'9" to 6 feet tall. I'm going to try and compromise, and I will be building out the bed slightly into the side paneling. From what I've read, it sounds like I can probably squeeze 2 to 3 inches out of this like addition to the bed area, which will be worth it for me in my opinion, because again, everybody in my life except for me is tall. And the third area that I will have to sacrifice, or at least get really creative with, is extra seating. It's really important to me, even at home right now, to have a dedicated working space. You know, working from bed might be fun for a little bit, but not only are you gonna have massive back problems, you're also probably not going to be as productive. At least in my position. I know that when I get into bed, that is like zone out time. I'm not doing any work. I am not being productive. My first idea is to build my shower directly behind the driver's seat so that there is about 15 to 20 inches for a little booth seat right next to my bed. And with this, I would put a pull-out table that could come out from under my garage and serve as, you know, extra cutting space for the kitchen. It can be a little nightstand when I go to bed at night, or a work table or a kitchen table when I am doing work or eating. My other thought is to move the shower back so that way it is like butted up against my bed in the back of the van, and then to have a small bench seat right behind the driver's seat. Now, this would work really well if I could swivel my driver's seat around, but unfortunately, without major modifications, I don't know if I'm going to be capable of doing that. The 2020 Transit has a large e-brake that is mounted right to the floor, and unless you raised the seat considerably, you wouldn't be able to swivel or spin that driver's seat around. So if I went with this option, I would definitely put a swivel on at least the passenger seat and then install a lagoon table, which if you haven't seen them before, they're essentially floating tables that sit on a small arm, and you can move and navigate them around depending on where you're sitting. And the last way that I'm trying to incorporate more seating and working space into my van is by installing a swing up or pop up butcher block on the side of my galley next to the sink. Again, this will serve as great cutting space right next to the sink and the rest of the kitchen, but it will also serve as an additional work or eating space with that passenger seat swivel. So as I was mentioning earlier, right now I've just purchased the basics. I have a fan, I have solar, and I have floor and wall insulation. And with those major categories, my build total so far has cost $1,600. Now, once all these basics are in, I will be able to start planning my build in much more detail. Right now, I have measured out and gotten the dimensions of the entire space, but I'm not entirely sure how much that insulation is going to take up, especially when I put my walls or like siding in. So until then, I am just working with some rough ideas. As you heard, I still don't even know where I'm putting my shower, but I do have faith that the more time that I spend and the more research I do, I will end up finding a setup that works really well for me. All right, you guys, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to a little snapshot of where I am in this journey. I know it's not very exciting yet. I haven't started cutting into the van, but I promise that once I get to that stage, you will definitely be coming along with me. So if you are also on a van build process, I hope that these videos are helpful to you and that you enjoy learning from my mistakes, so hopefully you don't do the same. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up as it really helps support me and my work. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to subscribe down below. I'll see you guys next time.